Hi, welcome to another Facebook Live. Weeks and I have gotten a lot of questions about cutting long strips of fabric, usually for either long sashing or borders of a quilt. And it's something that you'll often see in directions. It'll say, cut strips lengthwise with the grain. So I thought I'd take a moment to show you that because I'm just about to do just that for a project I'm working on. Right now, Weeks is out in Pasadena at QuiltCon, and I'm here sewing, so let's just take advantage of this time. What I've got to do today is my directions called for 2 strips that were 69¼ inches long by 4 inches wide. And that's a very awkward size to cut. So I'm going to do it right now. There are several ways of doing this, but I'm just showing you my approach. The first thing is I always write down on a piece of paper quite large what it is I'm trying to do. Because if you get discombobulated and make the wrong cut, it's very wasteful. So I have in big bold numbers, 69¼ by 4. And I start with a huge piece of fabric, and I always pre-wash my fabric. So if it needs to be 69¼ long, I'm going to make sure there are a few extra inches just for shrinkage or anything that happens. So if I measure this now, I find out that it's about 80 inches long, it looks. So I've got extra length. And we have a very large work table and we have multiple mats, but most people don't have that. So I'm going to do my demo right now on a single mat to show you how you could do it in a more kind of normal quilting setup and not the studio setup that we have. So the first thing is, when it says lengthwise with the grain, that means you're cutting parallel to the selvage. Normally you would cut strips selvage to selvage if they're under 40 inches long, but in this case we have to go the whole length. And it's very awkward to cut the same strip 69 inches long. So the first thing we're going to do is actually fold this in half so I can cut through it folded through 2 layers. So I know that my finished piece needs to be 69¼ So folded in half, I'm going to give myself a little extra room. So if it were 70 inches folded, that would be 35 times 2. I'm going to go even a bit bigger, and I'm actually going to fold it so it's 36 inches across folded. And that way, I can do my final trimming of the length later. What's really important now is I cut the width of the whole strip first. So I've folded it in half. I'm going to back up. You can see, folded in half. And this is the most important step of all, I think. I've lined up my selvage. The fold is right here. And you can see it's a little extra long here. I've got 36 inches here. I cut more than I needed when I pre-washed it. I'll just set that aside and use it later. But the most important thing is a lot of people think when you're cutting lengthwise with the grain, you cut everything parallel to this. There's a very important step first, which is to take the fold and line it up on your mat with the grid line. When you do that, you might see that the selvage is slightly crooked to the rest of the grid. That's okay. What's important, though, is that your fold is really lined up. Because if you don't get that right and you cut something on a fold, you'll get a V shape. And so let me just show you. This is lined up. I want to cut a 4-inch strip this way. So the first thing I do, I'm actually going to come around here, is I'm going to trim off my selvage. And so I'm just lining up on my board now. I'm not paying attention to the fabric. I'm paying attention to the grid of my mat. And I'm just going to slice off right like that. Okay. And what that does is it gives me a clean edge to work with. And that edge is also going to be perpendicular to my fold. So if it was slightly crooked before, now it's nice and straight. That is the key, perpendicular to the fold. Then I need, again, this is where I look at my strip or my piece of paper and I say it's 4 inches. So I go back and I'm using my ruler. I'm not paying attention to my mat. I'm counting 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going in 4 inches. And even though rulers obviously are marked 1, 2, 3, 4, I'm the kind of person who always double checks, and I actually count 1, 2, 3, 4. And then I'm cutting. I'll have my back to you for a moment. And now what I've done is I've cut a 4-inch strip lengthwise with the grain. I'm going to cut it right here at 36. So now I have a very long strip that's 4 inches the entire length. Now I said I needed 69 1/4. I cut 72. It's much easier now to just lay this out and measure it the exact length I need and trim it down. So I always cut my strips at least an inch longer than I need. And I take a measuring tape, or sometimes, honestly, I just leave it extra long, especially if it's a border, and I sew it and I just trim it at the end. But here, I've got that. I'm going to set it aside. I actually need 2 of these, so it's so nicely set up right now. I don't want to mess it up. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to go across and do that. Once again, it's a little extra long. What I tend to do is I keep school board chalk around because I cut a lot of pieces right away. And I would do that. Whoops, I made a little miscut. I'll clean that up. And I would actually just label it and set it aside. So that's how we cut lengthwise with the grain. It's not that daunting. This was a piece that fit on one board. If I had to cut a piece that was 100 inches long, I would go part way, then I would slide the whole thing, and I would move my ruler, making sure it lines up. And if need be, I could chalk it first. But if it's even longer, no problem. If you're working with a smaller mat, like an 18 by 24 inch mat, you just do 24 inches at a time. So I hope that's helpful. If you've never cut lengthwise with the grain, not a tricky thing. Just check twice before you do everything. It should be good. And I hope it works well and you have nice straight pieces.